There's a feature running on millions of Windows 11 machines right now that takes screenshots of everything on your screen, your emails, your banking, your private conversations, and stores them in a searchable database on your own device. Microsoft calls it Recall. They announced it, got hit with one of the most intense public backlashes in the company's recent history, quietly delayed it, and then began rolling it back out through Windows 11 updates. This time, with less fanfare, softer language, and settings that look like opt-ins but behave more like opt-outs if you don't know where to look. If you haven't specifically gone in and verified that this feature is disabled on your machine, there's a real chance it is running right now. Let me show you exactly what it's doing, why it exists, and how to shut it down completely. And look, I want to be upfront about something before we go any further. Some of what I'm going to walk you through today depends on which version of Windows 11 you're running and what hardware you have. Recall in its full form is currently being rolled out specifically to Copilot Plus PCs, machines with a certified neural processing unit. But Microsoft has been expanding that rollout steadily, and the telemetry and AI data collection architecture that Recall sits on top of exists across Windows 11 broadly. So whether you're on a brand new Copilot Plus machine or a mid-range laptop from 2021, parts of this conversation apply to you. Stay with me, and I'll tell you exactly which parts. Let me show you exactly how this works mechanically, because Microsoft's official language around Recall is carefully worded to sound harmless, and the technical reality underneath that language is something else entirely. Recall works by taking a continuous series of screenshots of your screen at regular intervals, approximately every few seconds during active use. Those screenshots are not stored as raw image files you could browse in your Pictures folder. They are processed locally on your device using the NPU, converted into a structured database of visual and semantic data, and stored in an encrypted database file inside your user profile. Microsoft's documentation refers to this as a snapshot system, and they are careful to emphasize that the database stays on your device and is not uploaded to Microsoft's servers. That is their stated position, and I want to be accurate about it. The design intent is local storage. Here's where the nuance matters enormously. Security researcher Kevin Beaumont, who has an established track record of responsible disclosure, and was previously a threat intelligence lead at Microsoft itself, analyzed the Recall database structure when it was first released in preview, and published his findings in detail. What he found was that the Recall database, despite being described as encrypted, was stored in a location accessible to any process running under your user account. Any application you run, any malware that achieves user-level access on your system, any script running in your browser, all of them could potentially read the Recall database without needing administrator privileges. Beaumont named this attack surface directly. He called it a perfect spy tool, not because Microsoft designed it maliciously, but because the implementation created an extraordinarily sensitive data store and then protected it with user-level permissions, rather than something stronger. Microsoft responded to that research by updating Recall's security architecture. They added additional encryption tied to Windows Hello authentication, meaning the database can only be decrypted when you're logged in with facial recognition or a PIN. That is a genuine improvement. But the underlying issue that Beaumont and others raised hasn't fully gone away. You have a continuously updated photographic record of everything you've done on your computer, stored locally, accessible during your active session, to anything running as you. Think about what lives in that database after a week of normal use. Your bank's login page, captured. Your email inbox, captured. A private conversation with a family member, captured. A document you were editing that you never saved, captured. A medical portal you logged into, captured. Every single one of those moments now exists as a retrievable snapshot, indexed and searchable, sitting in a database file on your drive. The UK's Information Commissioner's Office launched a formal inquiry into Recall before it even shipped publicly, which is not a routine move. The ICO doesn't open formal inquiries over hypothetical risks. They open them when they see a realistic data protection concern that affects a significant number of people. That inquiry is ongoing. The Electronic Frontier Foundation issued a public statement calling Recall a privacy nightmare and specifically calling out the gap between Microsoft's marketing language and the actual data exposure the feature creates. These are not fringe voices. These are established institutions with legal standing and technical credibility saying out loud that this feature creates a problem worth taking seriously. Microsoft's explanation for Recall is that it makes your PC smarter, a photographic memory for your digital life. And if you trust them completely with that database, maybe that framing holds up. But trust requires understanding the actual incentive structure behind the product, and that's where this gets complicated. Recall is not a standalone feature. It is the visible consumer face of a much larger Microsoft strategic initiative that ties directly to their AI revenue growth. Microsoft has invested tens of billions of dollars into OpenAI. They have integrated that investment into every product surface they own, Word, Excel, Teams, Edge, Bing, and now the operating system itself. The entire thesis of that investment is that AI assistants become more valuable the more they know about you. An AI that has watched everything you've done on your computer for the past 6 months is not the same product as an AI that meets you cold. It's more useful, more personalized, more difficult to replace. And an AI assistant you can't replace is something closer to a platform lock-in than a productivity tool. That is the business logic behind Recall, not surveillance for its own sake. Microsoft is not interested in reading your emails. What they are building is a personalization engine that makes Copilot indispensable to you, specifically using your own behavioral data as the training material. The data stays on your device in their current design, but the value it creates, a deeply personalized AI assistant that knows your habits, your documents, your contacts, your workflows, flows directly to Microsoft's ecosystem. You become more dependent on Windows, more dependent on Copilot, more difficult to migrate away from. You're not the target of surveillance. You're the raw material for retention. And when I understood this framing, not as a conspiracy, but as a straightforward business model, my frustration shifted from outrage to something colder. It's like a gym that installs a camera in every room to build a better training app. The footage never leaves the building, but you didn't agree to the camera. You agreed to the gym membership. So what can you actually do about this? Let's get into the actual blocking steps, because this is the part that matters. And I'm going to walk you through every layer of this, from the quick surface fix to the deep settings most people never find. The first thing you need to do is check whether Recall is present and active on your system. Press the Windows key, type Recall in the search bar, and see what comes up. If you see an application called Recall in the results, it is installed on your machine. If you see nothing, either you're not on a Copilot Plus PC or it hasn't been pushed to your device yet. But don't stop here, because the broader telemetry settings I'm going to cover apply to you regardless. If Recall is installed, open the application, go into settings inside the app itself, and look for the option labeled Save Snapshots. Toggle it off. This is the surface level disable. It stops new snapshots from being taken, but it does not delete the snapshots that have already been collected, and it does not prevent the feature from being re-enabled by a future Windows update. So this is step 1, not the complete solution. Step 2 is deleting the existing snapshot database. Inside the Recall app settings, look for the option that says Delete Snapshots. You can delete snapshots from specific time ranges or delete all of them. Delete all of them. This clears the local database of everything Recall has already recorded. 0. If that folder exists and contains data after you've deleted snapshots, the deletion didn't complete fully. You can manually delete the contents of that folder, though I'd recommend closing any active Windows AI processes in Task Manager first. Step 3 is disabling Recall at the system level through Windows settings, so it can't silently re-enable. Press Windows and I together to open Settings, navigate to Privacy and Security, then scroll down to find the section called AI Features or Recall and Snapshots, depending on your Windows 11 version. You're looking for a toggle labeled Let Recall use your activity history or similar wording. The exact label has changed across Windows 11 builds, but the concept is the same. Turn it off. While you're in the Privacy and Security section, go through the activity history settings as well and turn off the option to store your activity history on this device. These two settings together close the main surface area. Step 4 goes deeper. MSC, hit Enter. Navigate through Computer Configuration, then Administrative Templates, then Windows Components, and look for Windows AI. Inside that folder, you will find a policy called Turn Off Saving Snapshots for Windows. Set it to Enabled, which, counterintuitively, means you are enabling the policy that turns the feature off. This is the setting that survives Windows updates. Surface-level toggles and settings can be reset when Microsoft pushes a major update. A group policy setting persists through updates because it sits at a layer that update processes don't touch. This is the one that actually holds. Note for Windows 11, Home users. Group Policy Editor is not available on Home Editions by default. There are ways to enable it through registry modification, and I'll point you to a reputable guide in the description. But if you're not comfortable with registry editing, the settings level toggles from step 3 are your fallback. They're not bulletproof against updates, but they're significantly better than nothing. Step 5 addresses the broader telemetry layer that exists underneath Recall. Go back to Settings, Privacy and Security, then Diagnostics and Feedback. Set diagnostic data to required only. Not optional, not full. Required means Windows sends the minimum necessary to keep your device updated. Optional and full include behavioral data, usage patterns, and app activity. Turn off the option labeled Improve Inking and Typing, which sends keystroke pattern data to Microsoft. Turn off Tailored Experiences, which uses your diagnostic data to serve you targeted suggestions inside Windows. These settings don't stop recall specifically, but they reduce the broader data collection surface that sits alongside it. One important disclaimer before we move on. If your machine is managed by an employer or an IT department, these settings may be locked by group's policy that overrides anything you configure. Enterprise Windows deployments often control telemetry settings centrally, which means you may not have the ability to change them. In that case, the right conversation is with your IT department, not your settings panel. Similarly, some of these settings affect Windows features you might actually want. Cortana, suggestions, personalized start menu results, activity-based recommendations. Turning off activity history makes Windows slightly less context-aware. That's the trade-off, and it's worth knowing about. Here's what I keep coming back to after spending weeks looking at how recall works, how it stores data, and how Microsoft has responded to the criticism around it. The controversy around recall is not really about one feature. It's about a fundamental question of what an operating system is for. For most of computing history, an operating system was a neutral platform, a layer between you and your hardware that ran whatever software you put on it without having opinions about your behavior. Windows 11, and especially Windows 12 in the direction it's heading, is something different. It's an operating system with business objectives embedded into its architecture. Features like recall, Copilot integration, and the telemetry layer underneath them are not additions to a neutral platform. They are the point. You're not paranoid for having a problem with that. You are correctly reading the situation. When the Information Commissioner's Office opens a formal inquiry, when established security researchers publish detailed technical findings about the attack surface a feature creates, when the Electronic Frontier Foundation uses the phrase privacy nightmare in an official statement, the appropriate response is not to assume they're overreacting. It's to pay attention and make an informed choice about your own machine. The steps I've walked you through today will not make Windows 11 a privacy-perfect operating system. Nothing will do that short of running a different operating system entirely. What they will do is close the most significant active data collection mechanism currently running on your device, reduce the background telemetry footprint, and put you in a position where you've made a conscious choice about your own system, rather than accepting defaults that were designed by people whose interests don't necessarily align with yours. Your computer is yours. The data generated by using it is yours. Act accordingly. If this walkthrough helped you find and block something you didn't know was running on your machine, share it with someone who's still on Windows 11 and hasn't checked. Most people have no idea this feature exists, let alone how to disable it. And subscribe, because Microsoft does not send a press release when they quietly re-enable something in a background update, but I'll have it covered the moment it happens.